Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series. Our topic for today's session is making Selenium a scriptless test execution engine. And we have with us today Mr. Ravi Nukala. He is the co-founder and director of QUALITIA software. Prior to this company, Ravi was building test automation success for various global enterprises. He leveraged his development and architectural expertise to help them quickly build scalable test automation, keeping a tight check on costs. He started his professional journey as a software person from where he rose to being an architect, architecting technology solutions for top investment banking organization. There he found his true calling in quality testing and then test automation. So without any further delay, I will hand over the session to Ravi. This is a quick request to all the attendees. In case of any problem you face in terms of audio quality or in anything at all, please feel free to drop the moderator a message and the same will be taken care of. We will be taking up questions during the last 15 minutes of the session. However, please feel free to start sending questions throughout the session if you want to. Now I hand over the session to Ravi. I make him the presenter now. I hope I am audible, Ravi. You are currently not audible, so just make sure that your audio setting is fine. You are still not audible. Ravi, you are currently not audible. I request you to check your audio setting, please.
Can you hear me at all? Hello?
Yes, is that Ravi?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, you were not audible for the past 5 minutes, so would request you to probably start your presentation from the very beginning again.
Okay. Okay. Am I clearly audible right now?
Yes, you're audible right now.
Okay. Okay, so presuming that I was not audible at all, I would like briefly introduce myself as a technocrat person who's extensively worked on test automation, building several different kinds of test automation frameworks. Been working on Selenium for the past 4 to 5 years, and most of my expertise is in the engineering field, is in the in architecting several solutions, and it happens to be test automation when it comes to QUALITIA. So I'll be sharing some of my insights on Selenium, and one such approach of test automation that we have taken and been hugely successful with, which is Scriptless, and that's what we are using nowadays, and have been extremely successful in using Scriptless as an approach. So that's the area that I would be sharing my insights on. So just to begin, we have a quick 4-point agenda. One is, first we will begin with the expectations and reality. This is what we have seen when we work with a lot of other customers, and eventually we will also kind of want all of you guys to also share what issues and what challenges that you are facing. Then we'll actually delve into challenges in Selenium test automation. So when we are saying challenges, we're not saying per se the tool-specific challenges that's assumed to be there for every tool. When we are saying Selenium challenges, we basically mean making automation workable continuously and getting the kind of revenue and automation leeway that you really want from a tool like Selenium. So these are the larger challenges. Then a need for a scriptless solution. What we believe, how I believe Scriptless can solve most of these, I would not say problems, but challenges. So that is what we will delve into. And then finally, I would share my thoughts of how we over a period of time have been successful in building scriptless automation solutions, and how to build, as to what kind of design considerations and what things you need to have in mind, and how you can leverage to build a scriptless test automation engine. Okay, so it starts with expectations. So when anybody gets into a test automation, or ideally with a tool like Selenium, there are classical traits of why people jump into Selenium automation. And of course, the first one that lures everybody, including the people at the top who are basically driving decisions. They say, okay, this is a free open source software, and we really like. I mean, why don't we guys spend some time figure out whether this works for us and all that, right? So that's where it starts. We want to save a lot of money. This is a free open source software, so let's spend some time and let's get it going and let's make it work. So that's basically the kind of trigger that that any organization, any project or any team would basically have when starting with Selenium. And then people start with Selenium. I mean, not right away in the WebDriver days, but right now in the WebDriver days, but a lot of customers that we have met, they started using the record and playback approach, and they feel that, okay, I mean, things are working now. And because there is a lot of money saving that you see, or rather you don't see a reason. I mean, you don't have a reason to say no, because it's a completely free tool. So you have all the reasons to go ahead and make it work. So saving time, you expect a test automation solution to save time inherently, and you feel that's easy because you have a record and playback approach. And of course, there's a high amount of return on investment that anybody is making, and needlessly, once the investment, so-called the perceived investment is minimum or almost free, there's the big expectations on the returns that you're going to get, or even if the returns are not going to be as overwhelming as the commercial solution, still there is a good proposition why somebody would want to go the Selenium way, right? And the inherent expectation is once you automate, you can run always. That's been the kind of thing for any test automation tool, but more importantly for Selenium, once you start seeing it working through a small plugin in a browser, you really get excited. And once you start jumping into this, and when the reality hits, this is how it looks. And then, I mean, you'll find teams saying that, oh, it's not that easy. Okay, it's fine with the record and playback approach. I think we need a lot of people who are with a development background, or at least a few programmers to get hold of this one, right? And some would say, okay, I cannot just automate. I need to understand what some part of unit testing, or a JUnit, or a test ng. So multiple rounds of information start going back and forth, right? And slowly you start unearthing the real nitty-gritties of test automation, and especially test automation with Selenium, so to say. A lot of commercial solutions will probably package all of this, what I'm talking right now here, together into a solution which will kind of make it an end-to-end product. But with Selenium, it's a big powerhouse, but if you want to get the powerhouse working, you have to have an understanding of some JUnit or TestNG frameworks. You need to understand XPath. You need to build your own object management capabilities, right? So all of these kind of things slowly start unearthing as once you start, it starts testing your patience. And once you start developing tests, and once you have even got them executed, then executing across platforms, executing across multiple browsers, right? And not only executing across multiple browsers and platforms, but also when you start vouching for your delivery timelines, or let's say release timelines. And start basically going against those release timelines and getting your automations done. Initially, it found that people take a lot more time to just start getting used to, accustomed to. And this being an open source tool, you have a big community. You have a few books nowadays with the popularity really growing, right? But still, getting started and really hitting the golden mean, or really hitting the tipping point where you'll be really comfortable and be an expert or even above average contributor to Selenium, it's something that that takes its own time and really tests the patience of the person who is driving this. So these are some of the realities that we have come across when we talk to a lot of customers, and then. When we work with Gartner, this is what Gartner has to say. A lot of enterprises get into test automation, and this is not specifically for Selenium, but I've taken this leap out of a Gartner publication that we were part of. So wherein the clear observation was a lot of enterprises. Now these are not small enterprises that we are talking about. These are large enterprises which have heavy investments into commercial solutions and willing to do everything to make Selenium work and put in the right amount of efforts and everything. Even when they get into a lot of expectations on Selenium, adding the right manpower and people and the expertise, even they are not getting the expected amount of savings. So we'll see where we have those kind of challenges. We'll kind of quickly run through the poll. So can we quickly have a poll wherein we'll see the kind of challenges that specifically we have seen, a spectrum of different challenges that we have seen customers face or users face in Selenium.
Certainly.
Can we have that poll bring up, please?
Yeah, certainly. I'm just going to launch the poll now.
Yeah.
We are going to keep the poll up for about 10-15 seconds and then we can share the answer. Okay, I'm closing the poll now and I'm going to share the poll result. I hope that the attendees actually could choose from the multiple options that we had provided, because all these percentages are not adding up to 100%. Can you see the poll result on screen, Ravi, or do you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, I can. No,
Okay.
I can. So most of us believe that building robust frameworks is really a challenge with Selenium. I mean, not to be fair, it's not just a challenge with Selenium, but a challenge with any test automation solution. But being open source, it kind of adds it to a bit more of the complexity of building frameworks. And of course, that's the challenge that most of us see. Then availability of Selenium experts is another challenge, which is more of the competency and the capability that is available to do it. And then it is about object identification and management. And with all this, of course, I think all of this kind of aggregates and accumulates into has a cumulative effect, which basically either reduces the automation time or increases the time to automate. So it's good that we see such kind of a trend, because that's really what we have also seen on ground when working with multiple customers of different capabilities and different sizes. So moving on, I'll almost reiterate the same point here. So if you see some of the challenges that we have seen, I mean, this is from last data that we have collected all across working with Gartner and ourselves working with different customers. So one of the challenges is where to start, what to do, then how to expertise, then is it about only Selenium, then is it about anything else? So slowly you start unearthing. So there's a big steep learning curve, and for somebody who's beginning to get hands-on with Selenium. Then there are a lot of auxiliary tools that you slowly start getting introduced to. You start getting introduced to a Firebug, then you start getting introduced to something called as an XPath, then an XPather, then HTML DOM, and then how it happens to be, how is the source different than than the actual DOM, right? So why can't I just look at the HTML source versus why I need to have something like a Firebug? A lot of these kind of things, right? So this is from anybody moving from a traditional test automation tool. He has a totally different journey to go through, and they probably believe that, oh, my commercial automation tool was much better than this one. I mean, this is probably 20 different things in a pack and not integrating with one another, and I need to get them integrated and keep them working together. So that's another problem that commonly we come across. The third problem that we come across is everyone builds in either their own reporting solutions, or they basically go by their own reporting by the reporting of the framework that the framework allows. Now, this reporting framework can be a JUnit reporting framework, or there are purely just reporting frameworks like BERT and all of these, which people tend to use, or then they build their own. Otherwise, they build their own homegrown reporting solutions. Object repository, this is almost like a must with anybody getting into Selenium automation, and for good or bad reasons. It's not part of Selenium. It's not built into Selenium automation. Selenium happens to be a raw engine. It doesn't bring in these must-have kind of what you can say top-ups or add-ons that are required in test automation. So that's something again the user has to deal with, which is again a problem. A lot of people see again a challenge. Maintenance and scalability, to be fair to Selenium, this has nothing to do with Selenium, but as I said earlier, this just adds on to the complexity because we have a lot more things to take control of, and then finally you have the real monster, the maintenance and scalability, the true problem of any architecture or of any solution for that matter, more importantly of automation, and then more importantly of Selenium. So most of these things that we will that we will kind of focus on in the presentation going forward. So I've just listed a list of detailed challenges again, so that these are more specific, these are more detailed. So as I said, learning the objects is specifically a challenge once people start using Selenium. Right? So how do I spy an object? If I go to Firebug, should I be using the XPath? Should I not be using the XPath? Should I be using the CSS or the DOM locator? What are these locators, right? So slowly you start getting used to it, and most of the time that we have seen, people spend a lot of time in getting a particular strategy going for them in terms of learning objects, right? So some would say, okay, start with a name and then go with an ID. Some would say no IDs at all because IDs are dynamic in our applications. So several of these start going back and forth, and then you start coming out with a specific strategy that fits your particular application under test. So learning object is certainly one sort of a I would not say an issue, but a kind of a challenge that has spread across almost all Selenium automation teams. Object repository management, as I said earlier, is another challenge. Built-in reporting, so and a lot of these automation test automation experiences want almost a large team size. So once you have a framework, once you have a solution, you're just expecting somebody to come understand your framework, whatever kind of framework it is, and scriptless or non-scriptless or whatever it is, to come and easily be adaptable, right? So that's the major, what you can say, that's the major success factor of your framework design or of your framework development. So it's good enough till the time you develop it and you're using it. The moment the other person uses it is the real time of is really the testing time for your framework. Can they just go ahead, look at a framework, start using it, and be comfortable with it as early as possible, right? So that's the real key. Most of the other points I have already addressed, so I'll just move on. So the big question in this right now that we are trying to question through this webinar is Scriptless the solution, right? So there are, as I said, there are multiple frameworks that there are multiple approaches that you can use. Scriptless happens to be one of them. As such, we personally have seen a lot of success with Scriptless. So that's the reason of getting into this webinar and sharing our thoughts and our thoughts and our experiences with Scriptless. So we certainly believe, yes, it is really a solution that you should go for. Kind of design it well, go ahead and give it a shot. Because it brings in extremely powerful capabilities of design, of solution, and of usage. And basically, it gives all and everybody the leeway to start using your solution, and you can see a multifold effect of productivity, of the kind of gain that you really want to see in test automation with Scriptless. Okay, and here is so here we start the journey of why Scriptless automation. So when we are basically saying Scriptless, I'm vouching for any solution which would basically not need coding, not need programming, right? Any approach, any solution which will allow you to go ahead and start automating tests. In this context, we are talking Selenium right now. So let's say anything that allows you to build Selenium tests without having to program or without having to do any kind of coding. And a simplistic definition, more than a definition, it is the characteristic of Scriptless. That's how we at QUALITIA look at it. So we basically say Scriptless is an approach that makes automation extremely simple, and these are the kind of objectives that should make a solution extremely simple and completely Scriptless, as the name itself terms it. It's completely code-free, right? To a large extent. So this is a solution that makes it extremely simple, very fast to automate, so high turnaround times in automating test cases and stuff like that, and extremely reliable as compared to any other solution. And a big plus with Scriptless is, as you can note, anyone, including the manual testers, including the subject matter experts, the business guys, or most of them who are either developers, either programmers, non-programmers, everybody can embrace it and start being as productive, or if driven in the right manner, can be even more productive than the normal coding approaches, right? And it really makes the solution really maintainable and extensible. So with this, I'll start introducing how I see an abstract scriptless engine. What should be the composition of such an engine? So first thing that in my opinion that a scriptless engine should have a test composer, and I should have rather said a script-free test composer. So anything that would allow you to quickly compose and build test cases without writing using any of your scripting languages, the ones like the way Selenium supports, like Java and Perl and all of these kind of languages, right? So no programming, kind of a no programming test composer or a script-free test composer. Then you should have a reporting engine, and you can develop very sophisticated reporting engines in a very intuitive manner, which will exactly make you aware of what goes wrong where, and things like that, which is rather a bit difficult in the scripting world, right? So you'll have to go through your own stack traces, your own code, and unfortunately not everybody understands what's really happening in the code except for the developer. Not the case with a scriptless engine. Change manager, this is precisely what I'll stress upon and in later part of the webinar. This is one neglected piece of test automation everywhere, not only just Selenium. So in the test composer, the key ingredients of the test composer, once you start abstracting a test case, abstracting any application that needs to be tested, there are three things that you need, right? You need the object, you need the method, and you need the data, right? So object, so this is very much what let's say a keyword-driven approach suggests. So you can build a keyword-driven approach using this methodology. You can build a data-driven approach using this methodology, or using all these three ingredients. Or you can build, let's say, a hybrid model, a page object model. So whatever basically that you use, right? All that you need for your tests to run at the core root level is an object, method, and a data. Right? With these, you can really you can really create a solution to whatever levels that you really want your isolations and abstractions to really work. So with object, method, and data, that will help you to compose your tests. So something like, let's say if you are using a keyword-driven model, more like an object is a text box, entering a text, let's say enter text is a method, and then probably an XYZ text is probably your data, right? So you can build such test steps which are object, method, and data compositions all across, and create several test cases out of it. That's how a keyword-driven solution looks at it. In case of a reporting engine, a reporting engine needs to be, I mean, this is quite a large topic in its own sense, but I'll try to cover it in as much time that we have today. So in terms of the reporting engine, more importantly, needs to be insightful. So irrespective of the amount of data that it is trying to share or the data that it is trying to generate, the moment you look at the report, you should be able to make sense out of the report, not only in terms of pass and fail, but let's say if a test case has failed, you should be able to immediately look at the test case and make out what exactly has failed, right? What is the reason behind? So it's not only the failure that it needs to report, but the root cause of the failure as much as possible is what the real insightfulness is all about. And get it as detailed as possible. So most of the scripting solutions or most frameworks anyways will give you a lot of data in terms of detailing snapshots. I guess most of us anyways do that. And then reports that are more self-explanatory in terms of data, what data usage that you have used, clearly specify the data that you have used. So any test automation failure can directly be picked up by a developer. A look by the developer at the test case exactly helps him know what the issue is, what the kind of data that has been used. I mean, and basically make your reports portable enough so that they can be sent to developers, sent to stakeholders, anybody who can just take a quick look or attach it to your defect management solution or any of those kind of solution, and a quick look at the solution will give anybody a good idea of what the issue was and where it happened, what kind of data it had used, which a manual testing ability anyways lacks, but a reporting engine, if it has built in, it save a lot of time. Now, when we are talking of change, there are basically three changes, what you can say dimensions to change that we look at. One is generally the changes to objects, which most of the solutions, or I would say most of the frameworks, generally cater to. So be it commercial test automation tools which have been popular. So all of these solutions, right, they are good at, let's say I change an attribute, or I change an attribute in the object, or let's say an object has no object and a particular identifying object's attribute has changed. You just go ahead, change it in one place, be it your page object model or any other framework that you develop, right? So kind of take care of it. So this is kind of granted. So I would not get into a lot of details of change in objects, because this is kind of taken care of most places. What's not taken care of in most places, and that way is it's a bit difficult to handle, is workflows and data dependencies. Now, when we talk of workflows, unfortunately, I've not seen a lot of objects being changed left, right, center, unless and until you have adopted a incorrect strategy for objects or something like that. Most of the times, developers, unless and until it's like very early days for automation, and I don't know how many applications, maybe nowadays a few of them do go ahead and start automation hand in hand with your development when you are using Agile or whatever form of operations on your project. But ideally, I have not seen a lot of developers going ahead and changing object attributes, or probably they are changing the UI, but they generally don't tend to change a lot of object attributes. The point being, if you have covered the object, it's great, but you probably covered only, I would say, at the max 15% of the mess, right? So the major part of the mess, or I would not say mess, the major part of the reason for the application to be tested is because it's going to change in workflows. It's going to change in business. It's going to change in terms of new test cases that it's going to bring in, new features that it's going to bring in, right? So that's more of a natural change that is going to be addressed or going to be introduced to the application. And that's more of a requirement, and it's not an incorrect strategy kind of a thing. So the question is, how do we address that? How does that change help us understand how we can arrest a particular change? If a change comes in, how does our framework tell us that the change has happened, right? And that change, how it can impact the rest of the components, the rest of the existing test cases in the framework. How many test cases are still not affected by the change? I mean, all of these kind of things, right? And you can take it to a different level of sophistication altogether. But that's the point, is that's the key thing to address, right? If you have addressed that well, you've addressed a large portion of the, large portion of the problem, which is really the problem today with most frameworks. Same with data dependencies, but a lot of data dependency problems are also related to the way you design your tests, the way you have designed your test data, your strategy for test data, and then of course your framework can accommodate a lot of those kind of things and help you clearly identify if let's say a particular test data has changed, or if you are getting built-in data from production for certain reasons, if that has changed, what can be the impact and where it should be and how it should be. Otherwise, it takes a lot of time for you to arrest and understand the data dependencies and its impacts. Then, as I said earlier, an application can change from any dimensions, but something that will allow you to quickly arrest this particular change is what the change manager should ideally look for. And of course, it's, all of this being at the cost of easy to use and easily adaptable by anyone. Okay, so now we'll start getting into the specifics of what a test composer should contain and how it should go ahead and build. What kind of design considerations you should have while building such a test composer. So an object repository manager should basically have something like either in your sophisticated manner you can have your own object file which purely works on Selenium, or you could have a repository wherein you can create your own objects. This is especially useful if you are going and automating a lot of test cases. Not only, when you even don't have your applications ready, right? So you can go ahead, create your objects, create your object identifications and attributes purely based on how the layout is going to look, or the kind of UI wireframes or specifications that you have from your dev teams. So all of that, right? And then make sure that you map your objects to test case usage. So whenever you have objects, whenever you have attributes, you go ahead and make sure that you map them to your test cases. So any of your test case changes, any of your object changes, you can easily arrest that sort of a change in test cases. So that will kind of give you, if not very sophisticated, at least to begin with, a good decent level of understanding of if an object changes, what are the test cases that are going to be impacted by it and things like that. Then a method composer basically is a list of methods. So most cases you can relate this to a keyword-driven framework wherein keywords are written. So methods can be same as keywords. So what I mentioned methods here. This being a design consideration, I didn't want to use the word keywords. So this typically all methods. So methods like send text, type, or let's say click and wait, and all of these that you anyway see in Selenium, you can have your own set. For all different kinds of technologies, different platforms, different browsers, you don't need to kind of write anything specific unless in very rare situations that you'll have to. In Selenium, Selenium handles that internally, so you have probably a much better peace of mind. One of the major reasons why everybody uses Selenium is for its cross-browser and cross-platform capabilities. But a lot to do with different technologies that you might want to develop all these kind of methods, and design a composer in such a manner that it's very easy to use these methods. I mean, a lot of people have seen design design methods, but the number of methods just grows too much, too big, too large over a period of time, and you just lose the overall advantage that you had with keywords, right? So people who have begun with, I mean, I've seen teams where people have about more than 800, more than 900, and they've grown to about 4,000 keywords. I mean, just impossible to manage that kind of keywords. You don't know who's really using which particular keyword in which situation. It becomes a total failure in those kind of situations. So you need to be very careful with that. So with the test manager, data manager, this here I'm talking only about management, but you can get into generations as well. So where you can, where you make sure once you have planned the data for automation, you make sure you have data that is mapped to specific test cases. If data needs to be shared across test cases, it's global data, you go ahead and map that specific level of data. If you want data sets that need to be shared across test cases, right? Make sure you think of that as well, right? Because data, as we saw, is one of the major factors why your test automation or why your framework can actually what you can say collapse or be ripped apart, purely because there are too many data dependencies and everything is dealt with fine, but because of incorrect data usage, you do not have a dependency structure rightly built in, and because of that, it's going to fail. So that's one key thing that you need to keep in mind. A large part of it is related to the way you do your data management designing. Okay, so we've seen the test composer. We now come to the reporting engine. So when we are building a reporting engine, you need to ensure that you have clear defect identification as much as possible, because the final objective of test automation, or for that matter any testing, is to figure out if there is a defect in the application, right? So what is my final aim of everything else is getting a defect that is there, search for the defect, look for the defect, and make sure that defect is surfaced and that gets fixed, right? So out of the entire exercise of test automation, what is really the culminating point or the conclusive point is to get a defect. So ensure different ways and mechanisms and means by which you can automatically figure out a defect in the application, right? Naturally, a lot of frameworks, a lot of approaches present a pass-fail kind of a report. I would say most of the reports that I have seen actually go ahead and most of the reports that I have seen present failures, but then 8 or 9 out of 10 of those failures are never defects. So you spend a lot of time analyzing those failures and then go back to figuring out, getting one defect after so much analysis. That's also a time that you can save, and can be saved to a large extent if you can be smart enough in designing an execution engine or designing a framework which can get you past which can get those kind of reports, which will allow you to immediately nail the defects. As I said, troubleshooting of the root cause, which I was talking earlier, which helps you to again save a lot of time. Once you look at the report, you can immediately make sense out of it. And then overall dashboarding and archiving, there is no limit to dashboarding and archiving, and how you can bring up what kind of dashboards and what kind of reports that you would really want. So, there's loads of information that you can have here. So I'll not speak a lot of dashboarding and archiving, but that's something you need to just ensure as a developer, as a designer of a scriptless engine, make sure that you have all the information that's going into your system. You capture all the information. Dashboarding and building reports can happen anytime. So it's basically your view into the information, which will help you design your dashboards or reports. But what's essential or what dashboarding cannot happen only if you have not collected the right amount of data. So every data point that's collected is good enough to begin with, and then dashboarding can happen over a period of time. Archiving is again specific to specific environments, based on if these are live environments and you have a good amount of snapshot of your live data that you are going to run your tests against, then archiving helps a lot. Otherwise, regular archiving is just for about 30 days or something like that, and then you can probably flush your data. Reporting, ensure that you are reporting in standard mechanisms. I mean, standard open interfaces. What I mean by open interfaces is either do an HTML or a PDF, instead of doing what a Microsoft Word or a Microsoft Excel. I mean, that's ideally what I would prefer. Especially because, I mean, it's an internal project within the organization, then it doesn't matter, then it's your choice. But if you're looking at a larger solution, then open formats is something that will help you go a long way, right? And ensure that whatever formats of data capturing that you're using, you are using technologies which are easily integratable. So HTMLs and XMLs or PDFs and all of these kind of stuff is easily integratable with any of the other solutions. Okay, I think I'm a bit short on time. I'll quickly rush through things. So application change here, basically I'm talking about change in, as I said, change in objects in data workflow, highlighting the changes and managing the impacts. Wherein any change that happens, you should be able to immediately arrest the change, highlight it, saying that okay, these are the test cases that are impacted, these are the objects that are impacted because of the change, right? This is the data that probably might need to be changed. If you have arrested the change in all these three different dimensions, you should be in a much better position to manage your test automation. And more importantly, always ensure that when you're making a change, you should be in a position to isolate that change, because otherwise any change that you are introducing, let's say a script change or let's say an object change, you are able to do. Just your framework should be in a position to allow you to make that change only to impact a particular test case or a set of test cases that you know that you have to impact. Only those set of test cases. So you should be able to isolate that change very clearly, because that the change that you are introducing should not unduly impact, let's say, other users or other test cases or other current executable test cases in the production environment and all that. So the agility I spoke about. Especially the additional point here is mainly to ensure that that it allows you to quickly move in terms of test automation. So any test cases that you have developed, you should be in a position to quickly deliver them into your production. Go integrate them with your build automation process, any of your Jenkins and cruise controls and all of these kind of continuous integration solutions, right? So that it gets into it goes ahead and ties up into your build automation cycle. which actually is the final way that you can get the best benefit out of test automation. Okay, with that, I've come to the end. Just to remind you of the objectives. Keep it very simple, to keep it extremely fast in productivity, and to make it extremely reliable with the change management capabilities, right? So, and that's what is Scriptless Test Automation Engine is all about. With that, I guess we have about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes to take up some questions.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for the presentation. We have started receiving some questions from our attendees today. I have already assigned them to you, and request all the attendees to please start sending more questions in the meanwhile. Ravi, the questions will appear on the questions tab on the control panel.
Yeah, I'm seeing them. Okay, so one of the questions that I see is how to handle runtime exceptions. So one is to handle runtime exceptions. And there are several different mechanisms that we can talk about. But one essentially that I would like to point out here is you ensure that you are trapping basic exceptions, like exceptions when your object would exist or would not exist, your exceptions, especially in cases of WebDriver, if your object is visible, not visible, right? If your object is enabled, disabled. I mean, these basic kind of exceptions, you can right away you can build your own exceptions structure if you are using a programming language like Java or any other object-oriented language. So you can do that. Ensure that you are trapping these basic exceptions, irrespective of what methods or what actions or whatnot that you are writing. So before you do any action, any activity on an object, go ahead and arrest these exceptions and throw them back to the user in a manner that they can really understand. A lot of times, this will be a good strategy to even figure out that the object is not existing on the page, or probably you have an incorrect attribute to that object because you cannot find that object on that page because you have an incorrect attribute or an incorrect text bar. So I mean, those kind of exceptions, and then it depends on what kind of structure you can build your own exception hierarchy or your own exception class structure to arrest the change better. Scriptless is supported. Is Scriptless supported in WebDriver? Scriptless is more of an approach, so it has nothing to do with WebDriver or Selenium or QTP or any other tool for that matter. So you can basically bring in Scriptless for any kind of a solution. So pretty much you can bring it for WebDriver as well. So it is not a capability of the tool. It's more of an approach, the way you would want to implement, or the way you would want to use the tool to automate tests. The third question is, what should you best test data repository? There are a few questions. I mean, I'm reading through them. Yeah, there's one question which says, what would you prefer as the best test data repository? It depends. As I said, most repositories. I mean, if you ask me personally, I mean, I would go for anything which is an open standard. As I said, either an XML or an HTML, which is a completely open standard, so I can build my test repository anywhere, in any particular platform, on any particular solution. So anywhere that I should be able to pick up my data and get going with it. So ideally, I've seen a lot of Excel sheets that are ideally being used. or any spreadsheet solutions that are being used. So you can use them as well, but they come with a limiting, as I said, they come with some limitations wherein you'll not be able to put your framework onto any other solution where you would go ahead and able to use it more actively. So I would prefer an open standard personally per se, but of course it depends on what kind of requirement that you have. Yeah.
There are more questions. I hope you can view them all, Ravi.
Yeah. I'm just going through it. To be
Sure.
honest, just
Sure.
filtering them out for the relevance. So somebody has this is Vishak Rathore, who says, is it a good idea to keep all your test data, error messages related to it, and the locators on a single sheet? I don't know what that really means, but what I can surely tell you is, if the error that you are talking about is an error that is related to that particular application and is not like a generic error, or is an error that is happening on that particular page. So it's something to do with your application and underlying application. So then I would consider that as part of test data. So in that situation, yes, of course, it should be part of that same, same sheet or same folder or same file or whatever. So basically it needs to go together. If not, if it is a bit generic, then you should design a structure in such a manner that you have generic errors separately, generic messages separately, generic data separately, and then you can go ahead and individualize your test data and error data into specific sheets or specific files. What are the advantages of Selenium over other tools? Several of them, and there can be long debates on what works better versus what not. But when it comes to the field of web application testing, the huge advantage that Selenium has is, one, in terms of technology, and second, in terms of adoption. So in terms of technology, if you see the architecture of WebDriver or the architecture of Selenium RC was tuned basically to build a test case, to build a set of build automations purely for the web. So which means that compatibility with all browsers, all well-known browsers at least. So that includes your IE, FF, Chrome, Opera, Safari, right? And plus some maybe custom browsers if you are really interested, especially in the mobile world. So you can bring in all that automation very easily. Almost that saves you 10 times the time, especially if you want to do that same stuff in a commercial tool, like let's say QDP or an RFP or any other solution, right? Even though I guess commercial solutions are coming up with their own approaches, but today, by and large, Selenium has a major win over other solutions, especially in the web and the mobile space, especially because of the compatibility of running on several browsers with one single script. So that's, in my opinion, that's the biggest advantage that works. And with adoptions from powerhouses like Google and Thoughtworks and all of these kind of people, any new additions that happen into the web space, in all probability, these are at least going to be the first 5 who will approach and adopt any of the new HTML solutions. So let's say HTML5. So adoptions of any of these new internet technologies or web technologies is going to happen by most of these powerhouses, and with their support for web, especially for Selenium WebDriver, you can expect to be front runner and never to be left out in terms of your automation capabilities, like the tool like Selenium or WebDriver. So that again, as I see as a major plus for Selenium WebDriver. Commercial solutions, I mean, have their own roadmaps and their own reasons to keep up with it. We have time for a few more questions. Yeah. So, how to data issue locator? I didn't understand the question. What is the other method more than try catch for handling exceptions? I guess, and if you're talking about Java, that's the only way you can handle exceptions. Unless until you're going ahead and checking your own null pointer, I mean your own runtime exceptions and throwing them. So ideally, it's only try catch. Can we test mobile applications using scriptless approach on simulator or on the device? Yes, of course. I mean, as I said, I mean, so whether you move to mobile or whether you move to anywhere, right? Or object, method, data. These are the only three things that you will need. You go to a Quick Test Pro, or you go to a Test Complete, or you go to a WebDriver, or a Selenium, or a mobile device, or any tool tomorrow, right? These are the three things that are going to interact with each other. You're always going to need an object. You will have a method to call on that particular object, and that method will need data. So with these three things, you can build a scriptless solution, and of course, that scriptless solution can run on mobile devices. So it's about whether the underlying tool that you're using. So in this case, let's say Selenium WebDriver. Let's say WebDriver, can it run on mobile devices? Yes, of course, it can run on mobile devices. Right? We're not, of course, talking here of native applications, but if you have a native application tool, you can also build a scriptless engine on a native on a native mobile application automation tool.
I think, Ravi, we have almost run out of time.
Yeah.
You can take maybe one last question if you want to.
Yeah, how to handle object changes in Scriptless. So as I was saying in my presentation, you should build an object repository. Without an object repository, you shouldn't, ideally, in my opinion, move ahead on any sort of framework in when using Selenium. But in terms of Scriptless, you should go ahead and have objects for, especially for an object. One thing that you can ensure is when you are categorizing objects, ensure that you are categorizing objects by pages. So let's say you have a contacts page. So you store all your objects under the contacts page separately versus an accounts page, let's say separately, versus your payment page versus your orders page, right? So specifically move it away from and keep it under a particular page. If the page has frames, I would kind of go ahead and even further suggest have objects within that frame located under that frame, right? So you should have a page frame object kind of a structure for every page, and make sure that whenever you change or whenever you use, you are using only these specific objects under that particular frame on the particular page only to build your test cases, right? And whenever you change all the references across the scripts. So I think that's one way ideally that we have seen working and has given a huge benefit in terms of maintaining scripts and maintaining test cases.
That we will end today's session. Thank you so much, Ravi, for taking the questions so promptly, and we would request all the attendees to also. We would also request all our attendees today to take up the questions with Ravi, probably offline. You can visit www.techgig.com. Come and post your queries there, and Ravi will probably will be in a better position to go and answer some of those queries by coming onto our discussion forum. Also, Ravi,
Sure.
if you want, you can also share your official email ID or your LinkedIn address with our attendees today, for them to connect with you offline beyond this session. And the recording of today's session will be available by tomorrow afternoon. So do visit techgig.com for more information. And Ravi, it was a pleasure having you today, and we would love to have you for similar sessions in near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, and the pleasure was all mine, and thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you so much once again, and thank you everybody for making this webinar a success. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.